Hello, welcome back to another video. Today we will be taking the standard Bronco Bastion and we will be modifying it to hopefully perform better than on the tracks. On a track. So what I mean by this is like we're going to be going for top speed while maintaining your sense of like maneuverability. So let's say you want to take this corner here, you slam on the brakes and take the corner. Now, when you give a vehicle a lot of power, there are a few things you have to take into consideration. For instance, you tend to be able to get a little slidey even when traction control is on. You tend to experience understeer a little bit more. I have ways to counter that, but again, you can get a little slidey when doing so, and it can cause wrecks. So, just because you have a car that can go really, really fast doesn't mean that's necessarily the best thing. You just have to know your driving style and know if this is something you want. I tend to do a little bit of everything when I customize my cars, so I'll take you through one step at a time. We'll just park it here and go from here. So once you have this the tuning part pulled up, section pulled up, which will be right here, right next to vehicle, the first thing I like to do is go into the search bar and type engine. This will give me all of my heart, the heart of my engine. So what you see in here, when you open up this is what I like to call the heart. And I like to go to the 6.5 liter V8 option. It gives the most power. It is significantly bigger. If you want a more stable vehicle though, I would recommend the 5.7. The 3.5 is obviously the most stable of them all, but 5.7 just gives you that extra power while maintaining better stability. So if you want that really good cornering for an American car, take this engine. And since we want to go really fast, we're going to go with the 6.5. Obviously, we want the ultra heavy duty. And I take adjustable race. And I'll show you why later. And then for long block, if you want to just boost the hell out of it and put all the nitrous on it, ultra heavy, that is the way to go. But if you want to get the most performance out of your engine, stage 3 long block. This will allow you to turn your red line all the way up to 7,500, which will probably rest somewhere around like right here. Meaning this will obviously update. So now what I do though is I go into my intake, because with what we've done, a sport intake will be somewhat restrictive especially if you want maximum power. So we're gonna go stage 3 wind turbos, which brings us to our next problem. We now have to go to exhaust pipes. Okay, no, sorry. the exhaust manifold, my bad. And you want the twin turbo. Now, I personally choose the turbos, because yes, they do have some turbo lag, but they don't have, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as you think. Very worthwhile. And it also allows you to have some of that more controllable RPM range that, like, let's say you still want to get used to it. It's not like right there, all the power, and it kind of helps with wheel spin. Although, say, helps loosely. I then go with the race quad exhaust mufflers. These opened it up the most. I've found they usually give me the most power. Although I'm not sure, it feels sometimes like the performance exhaust helps more. We'll do performance exhaust just because this allows us to make the car itself look a lot nicer. Exhaust pipes, can't really do much with those. So now I'm going to go back into here and we're going to get some nitrous. And we're going to want the 20 pound. This will just mean we have more at our hands. Like, it can go for longer. And we'll get the adjustable, because off of what I found with what we're going to tune it for, 50 kilowatts will blow your engine with the performance. Next, we're going to go into the radiator, because where it stands right now, not only is it underpowered because it's made for a V6, but it's very underpowered. So we're going to want the ultra high, because it's a modified V8. And this will help get us the most power. Now, I found you still have to be careful. If you're not careful with it, you can still overheat your engine. There are mods out there that help fix that make it just so that your engine never overheats. And for some of my most extreme builds, I utilize it for sure. It's called the Unreal radiator. And what it does is it always makes sure your engine stays right here. Never lets it go up. Well, at least it tries its best. So now, this car is technically done, aside from minor clipping. Although, with where it stands right now, it'll have terrible wheel spin. Will be pretty hard to control. So we're going to go into the steering. And we're going to give it power steering. Not adaptive, though. I found it's finicky. Haven't really learned it too well. So I'm going to go with what I know. That is power steering. And then we're going to go to the steering itself. Drift will break your car. The steering will snap. And with an engine like this, you'd want a speed limiter if you're going to use this. This will help you drift, though. So maybe if you want to do a drift car, go for it. Although, if I'm setting up a drift car, I'll use the drift preset and then modify as needed. So we're going to use the quick ratio race steering. To me, I have found it is the fastest reacting, and it helps me maintain control when I'm trying to take a corner at 150 miles an hour. Now, we also have another problem that some of you more experienced players may have known, and that is that our brakes are not built, not like set up for the task to do it. like to stop us. Like, let's say we're doing 200, because I can guarantee you, with where this car is going to be at, it could do 200 easily. So we're gonna want to go into brakes and start overhauling all of this. We're just gonna turn it to race and full race, full race. And then we'll give it a rear wheel line lock. Actually, we won't. It's not necessary. Now we're gonna go into the suspension and just double check that everything is where it needs to be. So I know for this car, it it doesn't have any options, but this is also kind of for other cars. So I do like to go in, check my suspension, see how it handles, see if there's any other options that I can choose from. Because sometimes there are. Same with the springs. We can sometimes find a bunch of options and sometimes not. In this case, I think we'll use race. Now, I haven't fully understood why there's no springs for the front, but that's okay. We can then go to coilovers and see if this has any of them. It doesn't. So then I go into my shocks. Again, it's a little weird that it doesn't have the front. So if anyone wants to enlighten me with this, feel free. So now we've gotten our springs, our shocks, our brakes, our engine, and our power. So from here, you can either do weight reduction and strip this car as much as you want, or you can fix these small problems here and make this car actually look like it's built to do 200 plus. So what I like to do is I just type, let's go wide, and here's what I'll do. Actually, we'll actually do the performance route. And this will just help give this car a more how do I say it? Like a more aggressive feeling. It'll look weird at first, but just trust. Now it looks like we do need some wide body pieces. So if we just make these wide body, it should all work out. Seems to smooth, well, go through a lot better. It's a lot more smooth. It does have a more aggressive look. This hood ruins that a bit, and I feel there's definitely some to be desired in the back. So next, what I do is I type hood, and I give it a Battle Hawk hood. This helps put together the front end. And then for the back, I type wing. You have all of these, and I'll go through them all just to give you what it looks like in combination with everything else we've done. I don't believe there's any performance gain or loss from it, so it's really just you choose. This is one of my favorites. It just kind of flows a bit better. You then have the custom. which I can definitely see working, although it's personally not one of my favorites. If you're building this for a rally, maybe, but not one of my favorites. And then the classic sport, low profile. I use it sometimes. Don't worry. Alright. So now we still do have the problem of wheel spin. We could fix this by making it all-wheel drive, or we could do something else. Although since we're here, we might as well take this and make it a race limited slip. If you want, again, it is here. You can choose it. Although I like to do some burnouts and donuts with this, so we're not. Now we'll go to wheels. And for this specific one, we're going to be choosing 20 by 21 race black. I personally really like them, and they allow us to have the race tread without having to downsize the tire so much. So now we just type in tire, and as we see on this same one, there's also race. Not many to choose from here, but to be fair, if you're choosing this rim, you're probably wanting race anyways. So now that's the grip, the steering, the aesthetics, the engine, the cooling, the suspension, and let's see. Oh yeah, now we get to go from parts over to tuning. There's a lot to go over here, and I mean a lot. So, we're going to start with the brakes. I personally like where it is at right now, where it is biased for 75% to the front, 25% to the rear. I leave this alone unless I'm going for drag, then I'll drop this down to about 7, 7.5, but we're not going to touch it. I know these do have something to affect, and if you take this and turn it to 0, it will not slow down. I personally don't like that actually. I'm used to coasting and slowly slowing down. So we're not going to even touch this, because I don't even understand all of it. For RPM, what I like to do is slam this all the way down. This allows us to just bang off that rev limiter without losing any speed. We then take this and move it all the way to 3. And as you can see, there's that 7,500. Now, if you chose the ultra heavy long block, the vehicle can take it if you just slam this all the way to the... But with where it stands right now, that would over torque it. So what we're going to do is go to 17.5. You'll see why. For this minimum gear, you can actually set it so that you can have your nitrous oxide running at all times, but it won't engage until a certain gear. For now, we'll say if you're in 3rd gear and you're going hard, we'll say 3,000 RPM. Actually, we'll go 3,250. Let's do 3,500. If you're in third gear at 3,500 or above revolutions per minute, you will get 40 kilowatts of added power. This will give you a little bit more boost, especially later on in the gears. And it'll give you a slightly less amount of power, which helps not over torque the engine and makes your nitrous last longer. For here, we can adjust this as needed. I like to make it bubble. I think that should be enough. I'll drop it down one more just in case. I don't like touching any of this right here. That's my personal preference. So I've never actually touched it. Feel free to experiment with it. For tire pressures, I like to go to 35. And that's about it. Actually, wait. There's one other thing you can do. If we go back into the parts and we type transmission, for you people who chose the all-wheel drive option, make sure your transfer case is set to all-wheel drive. I think this is where, yeah. Alright. So it looks like I missed something, so let me go over some more of these for you guys. Under tray, doesn't have anything for you. Transmission, I like the sequential. The manual and sequential are very close together. The only differences being this one's cheaper for those of you in career. This one's more expensive. And this one allows you to shift your gears without putting in your clutch. It'll do it automatically for you. It's like having automatic, but you shift faster and you get a control where your gears are, as well as you cannot grind your gears. Next, that'll bring up the flywheel. Since you are technically running a manual, what I like to do is ultra light, as light as possible. This removes unnecessary weight and just makes it so that you can rev up and down faster. Now we will go back to those struts. I really should have checked to see if this one has it. We'll choose the race. I see. Make sure to hit that apply, or if you want to be a little interesting, turn on live updates. But please make sure it's off if you go into a BeamNG server. So I'm just gonna set this back to what we normally have it at, what I had it at before. I'm probably not going to touch these. Actually, let's see how high. We are a little low, so I am going to raise it. I'm going to do it in small increments. You can touch up with this if you really want to maximize your top speed, but I'm going to leave it be. If you want though, I will make a different video on it later. We could even do it with a scintilla, and I'll show you how I once got a scintilla to do 380 something miles an hour unmodded. All of this you see here, I forgot to hit the tuning again. All of this that you see here is unmodded. You can do this base game. I made sure to turn off all of my mods before doing this. So, we will let's hit apply. And now we have to do a run. So first I turn on my nitrous. And then, since this will be really loud, let's go in and turn down my engine sounds. We'll just turn it all the way down. So, with this car, as you can see, if you just give it the gas, you do a burnout. I am doing this on purpose. You can control it. It is actually very controllable in a straight line. You want to, you can still lose control. So you just have to side to side. But once you're up in that second gear, it does behave a little bit more. So as you see, that nitrous kicked in, and it now goes back to that first gear shenanigans, just at a much higher rate. You can get pretty high up there before the nitrous will kick in, so feel free to play with it. Now, every time you hit a bump, definitely make sure just coast, see if you're steering it straight, and it seems like it is. But you won't know until you're doing 150 for sure. So, like the scintilla, this thing now does like to pick out sideways if you give it the gas at a certain speed. Oh. So, I forgot to remove the speed limiter. I will show you how to do that. But first we're actually going to take advantage of said speed limiter to give you a theoretical speed. If you saw right there, there was an over torque risk. This tells me we're either going to want to sacrifice boost or nitrous. So we will make that edit later on as well. For now, let's get it up to 140 so that we can have a clear reading on how much speed this can theoretically do. Speed limiters are weird on your engine, and it makes it vibrate weirdly on the RPM. It was at about 3,500 though, at 140, so this tells me we have about a 300 mile an hour top speed. So let's wrap ourselves around, thoroughly killing ourselves. and then let's fix the problems. So we are back in the tuning, and as I said, we're gonna bump this down even more. And we're gonna bump this down. So, since we now knew that there were over torque risks even before the nitrous, we will add the nitrous on after we get to top gear. After we've done a whole loop, we will repeat the run. With that conclusion, I'm going to say we probably do not have any over torque risks, and so we'll add our nitrous back into the equation. As you can see, our nitrous still does make a noticeable difference in acceleration, and we have overtorque. That is not good, especially in only fifth gear, and we have a whole nother gear to add torque to. So we're going to want to lower our nitrous even more, and yeah. Alright, so we are back here, and we're just going to knock it down more. Okay, it appears we cannot knock it down anymore, so we have two options. Remove it altogether or lower wastegate pressure. In my case, for this one, I think we're just going to remove it. This will save us some weight, and it will allow us to have a more consistent power delivery throughout the entire vehicle, no matter how you do it. So, there are other modes to this, and if you don't like having your traction control off, you can go to the next closest and turn it to Savage. You go into your settings, and then to you go into here, although I can't click on it for some reason now. And click on there. But just to show real quick, we do in fact have no mods on. So you can go at this however you want, turning it off or going up into here in the parts tab, type in Savage, and then you can even set it as your custom, like as your starting. Most start on comfort. You can make it start on sport, drift, any of the available options. Just make sure to add it. Although I believe it is time we add a UI app, we will add a few. We're going to use our torque. I'm going to put it, I'll put it here so I can actually, I don't remember what this is. We're going to set this one here. And then which one of these would be the most readable? That's a good question. I think we'll want a torque curve. Is it display horsepower? I'm not sure. Yes, it appears it does. This will tell us how much power we're giving it. And how much power we make. So right here, we are making 170 horsepower, more than my car. If we jump up to this 3,000, we are now making 530 horsepower, more than most cars. We can then push it up to 4,000, And we see we are approaching the 1,000 marker at about 930. And we hit the 1,000 horsepower right around 4,200 RPM. We push it up to the 5,000. We're now making about 1,250 horsepower. Maybe 1,300. At 6,000, we are doing 1,500. At 7,000, we are doing 1,575. And then it starts to go down, with our peak seeing around 6,800 at nearly 1,600 horsepower. And our peak torque is around almost 1,400 at 5,200 RPM. I do not believe gears matter. It appears not. Our brakes don't seem to be telling us all that much. So let's go back and find out how much we are actually using in our brakes. Yeah, you don't really tell me that, do you? So I have decided to grab a weight distribution. That way you can see the balancing of our vehicle. We'll put it right here. We don't need this anymore. I would pull this a little closer. So now we will know how much weight is on each tire. This will also give us a rough estimate of how heavy our car is by adding each of these up. 26, 36, we'll say 46. So we can assume that this car is around 2¼ tons. That's a pretty heavy vehicle to be moving this quickly. You can also see how our weight shifts as we accelerate. And as you see, we don't have as much weight in the front, which means we likely will understeer. So, get up to about 100 miles an hour. And if we slam on the brakes, we saw the weight transfer. Now, does that mean you can just remove your rear brakes altogether to save weight? No, because you can see there's still about a quarter ton on each brake, or on each wheel. Your brakes do still work for you. Your front brakes just work better. So if you decide to remove brakes for weight savings, to make this car go faster, or for whatever reason, make sure it is your rear brakes that you remove, as your front brakes are much more valuable. So as you can see, we did overheat our engine just a little bit. We have damaged some parts and can re-overheat it. I don't believe I overheated it completely because it did drop pretty quickly. But this also could just be an update. We have broken our engine. It is thoroughly melted. But we can also just stick it in second gear and just bounce off that winder. And you'll see the heat gauge doesn't really go up. So just because you have a ultra high performance radiator doesn't mean you can't overheat it. You very much can, and very much will if you just sit there and do donuts. But yeah. Now because you have a 6.5 liter V8 in this car, it is safe to say it's not the most fuel efficient. And if you want to have a ton of power, a really high top end, and a more efficient cruising speed, while cruising like RPM, you can take that final sixth gear and really crank it up. Although with a theoretical top speed of 300 miles an hour, I don't think it's that necessary. So I think it's time we take this to a place and, well, a place. We take it to the grid map. Oh, what's going on there? Ah, yes. I love it when this car weighs only 341 pounds. So I'm going to take this and we'll meet you back on a grid map. Hello, welcome back. I have painted the vehicle and did a little bit more testing and found you can have a 16.5 turbo boost if you choose the no nitrous oxide, but you'll want about 15 if you want 40 kilowatt shot. I figured we'd do a quick drag strip just to see how fast it can get up, like how fast it can get moving in a quarter mile. So without further ado, let us begin. I think we got up to about, I think that was about an 8.5 second 0 to, well, quarter mile. So it's not as good as a drag bastion, and it's not as good as a scintilla bastion, like drag scintilla. But to be fair, that's not what we built it for. Now is it? So if we go through and let's do a top speed. Alright, so with a full tank, you can tell it does go through gas pretty quickly. The tank was full before at the start of this. But as you can tell, the temperature goes up just a little bit, and as you go through more fuel, your speed will increase. But at a full tank, we're going to call this a 276 top speed. If you don't want to cook your brakes, that's totally understandable. Just take it sideways. Or you can, if we get up to speed up, you can just slam on them and cook your front brakes. I do want you to keep an eye on that brake debuff, or when I slam on the brakes, you will notice they heat up rather quickly. We'll just get up to 275 to do this brake test. So in a second here, our ABS didn't come on that much. It really only came on once I started utilizing engine braking, which, in all fairness, you probably want to use with this car. if you are going to be doing 275 to 0. Once we get back up, our brakes should be back to temperature. If not, we'll use it to showcase how effective engine braking really is. We may even go a little bit faster. Although I think we'll be fine, so we're going to utilize engine braking at 275. We didn't cook our brakes as much, and that is a good thing. So let's get up to our top speed and slam into something. I cannot tell if that is a rolling brake pads or if I might have called them by accident. We'll let them cool off fully before coming to that conclusion. Although if there's a few I might have called them. We're gonna go to the moon. And let's hit this hill at hopefully 277 miles an hour. I don't care how much crumple zone you have. I'm pretty sure you're dead. Ah yes, the camera's in the roof, and we can see the back end, as well as our steering, as well as our seat, and the dashboard. And it appears we are somewhere in between the back seat, which is currently getting shredded by a tire, and the front seat. You can also see our windshield and the engine bay. Yeah, I don't think any of this is really good. Honestly, insurance might allow it. It might not be totaled, but based on this fairly straight, followed by a 90-degree turn, I don't know. Insurance might say it's done for. Honestly, it's worse than I've ever seen anyone in BeamNG doing. So for that, I've got to give it props. Yes, maybe we'll push that back down. Well, we can see how it handles a few different of the attractions, you could say, real quick. It has enough power to sustain itself in circles or in turning. and might have damaged the induction. Or it could be the intake, which I did not perceive happening in my testing. It appears we removed some bumpers, courtesy of the turn. We'll get it nice and fresh again for our next spins. Although I have a worry it might be a little too extreme for them. It appears we are just a tad bit too extreme, as we broke our drive shaft and promptly fell. So we're going to take that course that's in there before we move on to other attractions with this beast. Can't tell. Did we do a full lap? We may have to restart to figure that out for sure. It appears I made the same mistake. Now that we are out of there, we can check out some half pipe and an even bigger circle for our car to be tested on. So without further ado, let's test it. I'm not entirely sure what we caught on. Let's take a side view. Okay. I think we caught on. I wish I could tell you what we were catching on, but I cannot. Actually, can we do that cleanly? We just want to treat it as a big loop, right? I have an idea now. I'm not sure, but I think this is ending. It very much is. All right, we can ride an oval. Wait, maybe we should do some suspension testing. I'm actually not entirely sure what the official testing is, so we'll just do like 45.